Hello and happy Sunday to you. It's Sarah from Funky Fossil here, back with our weekly episode of creativity, a little bit of crafting with our stamps, stencils and papers today. And today it's all about kind of mixing it up. It's great to have coordinating collections. We all love the fact that things are going to work perfectly together. But half the fun of building our craft stash is looking at ways we can combine our products across different collections to give ourselves lots of different creative opportunities and lots of different looks. So today's Sunday Maker Bundle is what I've got on my desk in front of us, and it's a bit of a kind of mix and match. We've got our A5 flower dance stamp set. Because I adore these beautiful silhouette figures, and they're going to work perfectly with our wild and free 8x8 paper pad. Now, when I originally bought these out, they obviously come with a range of different floral images, so you can create really kind of whimsical, carnival, bright and colourful designs. But also, when I was kind of thinking about how I might use these figures, I also felt that they would go with a really kind of African, safari kind of theme as well, because they're quite lovely stylized images, and the body shapes really kind of look like those kind of African silhouettes. So that's the direction we're going to take this stamp set in today. So to complete the project, I think I'm going to do a journal page today, an 8x8 journal page. Our wild and free paper pad is then the perfect accompaniment, because it's got a rich colour palette, rich gorgeous greens, the animal prints, real kind of rusty reds, rusty reds, oranges, golds, etc. So it's a lovely earthy palette that I think is going to really set off our figures beautifully. So there's lots you can do with this, because as you can see, there are papers in here that have got, I love the texture on this one, that have got kind of areas blocked out in them. So you've got areas here that you could cut out and reconfigure into your own collage, and I've done that on previous videos. They are great sizes to cut out and have as focal points on your projects, and stamp an image or stencil onto those. So there's lots you can do with this paper pad, and the beautiful kind of colourway of it means it kind of leans into the neutral palette, so you've got lots of different options of things it will go with. And then, because we're going with this kind of African theme for our project today, I've got one of our older stencils called mud cloth pattern, and I thought that would be a fun one to add for a little bit of texture and detail in the background. So I'm going to put that in the Sunday Maker Bundle as well. So you'll find the link to the bundle at an amazing price in the description box below. Please just be aware that at the time of this video being published, we're away on holiday, so any orders you place will not be dispatched till the 30th of June. But obviously this fabulous kind of mini bundle, you'll always have the video to watch back for inspiration as to how I used it. So it's going to be a great price. Now, I'm also thinking of combining it with some other things from other collections that we've bought you in the past, and I'm just looking for the die set. So not in the bundle, but available on the website, and again I'll make sure this is heavily discounted. We've got these fantastic kind of abstract dies. This was in our kind of Matisse collection. They were kind of modernist style to them, but when I was looking at these, I was thinking these would be great with these figures and these papers, the vases, the kind of leaves, etc. So I think we're going to add these in to kind of build the scene. So that, watch out for that one on the the shop as well. And I don't know, I haven't got this far in my thinking, but I've brought it up onto my craft desk just in case. I may well then add a word to complete the layout with our Folk Alpha, which was from a different collection again. So you can see how all these products are kind of mixing and matching to combine seamlessly together. And this is kind of, I particularly picked out this alphabet stamp set because it has a bit of a tribal vibe to it as well. So I think that's going to go well with this overall journal page. And they're a good size letter, so I'm thinking I could just get a kind of a word on there, which is going to give it a real kind of give it real impact on the project. So that's what I'm thinking. What we end up with could be a completely different story, but certainly they're the products that I've got out to start doing some making with today. So ahead of time, what I have done, I can't remember which way that could go. I picked out one of the papers from the Wild and Free paper pad. Now this one has a kind of really abstracted animal print on it, and I've knocked that back slightly with some gesso. Just seeing if I can find it in the paper pad here. And the reason, there we go, so you can see it's, the pattern's still very visible, but that kind of light wash of gesso over the top just subdued it slightly so that my focal points and other elements aren't going to get lost. I also chose this paper as my base paper for the page because it has a reasonably good element of white space in the middle as well, so I'm not battling an all over pattern and trying to carve out space for focal point. It's already giving me that opportunity to kind of work within that area in the middle of the page where the pattern kind of dies away. So that's why I've chosen that particular page for our base of our journal page, should I say. And then what I've done ahead of time as well is I've stamped out a few of the flower dance figures, and I've stamped them onto one of the pages again from the paper pad. It's that one that I said earlier, I really like the texture of. My reason being, obviously, because you can see I've cut it out with a slight edge around it, and it just means that rather than it being a stark white edge, it's a colourway that's going to kind of blend nicely with the kind of the colours or the palette we're going to be working with. So I've got a couple of those cut out ahead of time, and they just look fabulous by themselves, don't they, really? The other things I've got ready to hand to play with are some of the elements. I'm just trying to dig them out here from the box behind me. I've got some of the elements from that modernist die set already cut from the papers in this pad. And I wasn't really kind of planning ahead how I would use them. I was just thought it'd be good to have them here, and we can see how we can incorporate them into the scene. This circle is one that is actually an element of one of the papers, and I often use this one as a sun on a scene because it's already got some texture in it. It's a nice earthy colour to it. So that circle there is the one that I've just freehand cut out to create, potentially, I'm thinking that will go nicely behind one of these figures. So that's what I've got done already. Let me just pull out all the bits of die cuts. And you can see already with what I've got on my desk, the kind of the colours are going to just make it very easy to compose something that looks very harmonious. So before I start having a bit of a stick down and building a scene, I'm going to have to, I think, probably layer some papers up at the bottom here so that our figures aren't floating around in the middle of the page without any grounding. I thought we could add a little bit of stenciling with that pattern that I was showing you at the beginning, and just again to make the paper our own, work on top of it. I do like to feel I've added something to the pattern papers in my project, so that I can kind of bring my own touch to them, really. So I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I'm probably going to have some kind of papers at the bottom here because we want our two figures to stand in the middle. So if I add some stenciling in this top corner, and let's see, I've got three colours that I picked out because I thought they would go well with the papers. I've got Wild Honey, Rusty Hinge and Ground Espresso. I'm just a bit dubious about whether these two might fade into the background a little bit too much, so I'm going to start with Ground Espresso, and if I find that's a bit strong, and it's a very, very dry ink pad as well, so it's not as if I'm going to over ink. If that's a bit too strong, then we'll just knock that back, but despite the fact that we've added added gesso to the page, there are already elements on here so that's why I thought if I go in with a stronger colour, the stencil's not going to disappear altogether. I'm going just in that corner, and I'm looking to fade it out slightly. I don't want it to look like I don't want it to look too contrived. You see there how it kind of fades out, so it just gets softer. Don't re-ink, just let that fade happen. Yeah, I think that kind of works, having it in the corner there. Doesn't it look great with that animal print? I'm glad I picked this one out. It's ages since I've used it. So again, thinking here, I'll add another element, a touch of stenciling in this corner. It's the side. Always worth repeating a pattern on your projects if you can, as a kind of repeating motif. It will make it look a lot more cohesive. If I've got one stencil there and a different pattern here, there'd be quite a lot for your eye to process, particularly given you've got pattern paper as well as your starting point. But it is worth looking at your pattern papers and thinking, actually, I like it, I want to work with it, but it feels like it's already quite strong, because a little bit of gesso can both give you a bit of grounding, so it means that your inks and mediums will move on that gessoed surface a bit more smoothly and won't be absorbed into the paper quite so quickly, but also it will knock it back and give you still something that's visible but not too intrusive. So I think that works well, doesn't it? I normally kind of work in threes, and I probably would have added a bit of stenciling down here, but if I'm going to add some papers, I'm not going to fuss about it today. So, and I think, and remember, you're going to have elements going on top of this, your kind of scene, so already some of it's going to get obscured wherever you put the stenciling, but it does add something to the page, don't you think? Right, so how am I going to ground our people? So I do have some of the papers here, and I thought maybe a mixture of a neutral and a green, and layer them up a little bit. So I do like this green. It's kind of got almost like a burlap texture to it. So that's great. It's not a flat colour, although I did like this green as well. I'll stick with the burlap for now. And then there was the textured page, it wasn't there, that one here that I really like as well. And then my next dilemma, I thought I had some of that textured paper already. Oh, I do. So I've got some of the textured paper here that I was using when I cut my figures out. And that's already got a really kind of slightly cool edge to it, hasn't it, just from where the figure's being cut out. So maybe that will be the best, rather than wasting the remainder of that paper. Let's cut into this one very loosely. Now again, you've got a choice here. You could be tearing your papers, and that adds fabulous texture to your project, and you can add ink to the edge. I probably will add a bit of ink to the edge of this. Or you could cut them, and again, that really is a matter of kind of personal preference as to how you prefer your finished project to look. Now this is going kind of quite a long way off the edge, you see there at the bottom, so we'll be trimming it back. So I'm just trying to audition things at the moment and see how they'll look. So I have and this immediately gives us a slope to position them on as well. Yeah, I think that's going to work okay, isn't it? I think I might just go straight in and stick these, otherwise I always lose sight of where the bottom is. So let's add just a little bit ground espresso. Another cool way of customizing this, I mean, if you didn't want to be using your pattern papers for this, you could use some inky backgrounds for the ground in kind of a harmonious shades, and add your mud cloth stencil. So add that stenciled detail to the landscape, and then you could be cutting those up and layering them in different colours. So that's another cool way of creating. Makes a bit of a difference, doesn't it? Just, again, subtle difference, but it just gives that edge a bit more definition. So yeah, so you could be creating your own papers, stenciling to tie it in with what you've already got there, and then using those as your collage elements. So if you are wanting to kind of preserve your pattern papers and not use all of them on a journal spread like I'm doing here, then that's another cool look you'll be able to get. But I do, the way this already has kind of a very distressed look to it, I do like that. I do like it. So what was I say? I'm not sure where my page is going to end, so I don't want to over glue. You could be putting these down, the papers down with kind of a matte medium if you want it to work over the top, because I'm not really planning to do that on this occasion. That's about right. I'm not going to worry about sealing them, but if you were using your matte medium on your base and then over the top, that would of course create a seal that would mean you could carry on working, use your texture paste or other things over the top. So let me trim this down so I've got a better visual guide. I'm kind of making it a quick project today because I'm filming this just before we head off on our holidays, and I should really be packing. But you know, crafting is always much more important than packing, so now I could just leave it like that and not have another layer, but I think it'd be cool to have a bit more dimension, so let's do that. I'm kind of going with that line. Really don't overthink it. In fact, I haven't got that line going at all, have I? Let's do that. If we do that, yeah. So I'm just going to again cut this deeper than I know I'm going to need it, because I can trim it away from the bottom of the page. I just wonder whether that bump is really helping me. I'm thinking it isn't, so I'm going to that's better. So let's add a bit more brown ink to the edge. I'll add a bit more ink to the brush this time because I don't think I'd added any last. And if you're worried about over inking when you're using kind of a brush, you could of course use a kind of makeup sponge or something that's going to give you a bit more, or a sponge daub or something that's going to give you a bit more precision as you cover that edge. So again, there are different options there, and it won't be as visible with this, but it will still make a difference to have both of the edges inked. I'm going to stick this down and then do a quick reset because I've got lots of paper and stuff all over, and then we'll look at how we can put the rest of this page together. But I think just the very simplicity of having a stencil and the paper's doing the work for us shows how quick it can be when you're feeling like you want to make something but you haven't got the time to get super inky and do all of the background work yourself. You can get some fabulous results by just kind of customizing your papers. There we go. Right, so I'm going to do a bit of a reset, and then we've got these elements to play with and our figures, and we can think about how and if we want to add a word to this project. So I shall be back in a very short second. Okay, so in the time since I turned the camera off, you can see I've been having a little bit of a play around with the elements that I've die cut to see how they might work together to form a scene. And I quite like this composition, particularly in terms of there being the cluster of 3 kind of vases here with the foliage in it, all again from the same paper pad, so everything's going to work together. I particularly like this kind of pot here kind of being held by the figure. This little pot actually comes from a previous die set called View Builder, so that might still be in stock, but it doesn't come in the modernist set, just to be clear. And I was thinking about a word at the top. We were looking previously at that Folk Alpha, but then I was looking at these papers that we had left from our landscapes at the bottom, and I quite like the idea of actually having a strip in this corner here with the papers, just to tie those that top and bottom together. So I might add those in. But what I think I'm going to do, just for so you're not watching me or painstakingly stick every individual element down, is speed this part up while I'm sticking the elements together, and then we can add a few finishing touches to the page when we come back. So just sit back and relax and just watch how all of this gets stuck down. Let's say gluing and sticking probably isn't something that needs a commentary from me, so I shall let this part of the video move a bit more quickly. I think the pages come together really nicely, and I've just matched it onto a slightly smaller piece of black cardstock just to give it a bit of a frame. I quite like having those papers repeating in that top corner, and you saw I just used a sentiment sticker after all to complete the page. I like the little headdress and skirt created from the die. It's lovely to play with kind of abstract shapes and see what you can do with them. And the only thing I'm really going to do now, just to kind of finish the page off, is have a little play with just a little bit of mark making, not much, but just adding a few extra touches and details to the page. So I've got a white gel pen. This is the number 10, so it's quite a thick one. I couldn't find my thin Posca, and a black Posca pen. And this is the kind of part of the process where you can spend as much or as little time as you want to adding some details to your project, or none at all really, depending on whether that's something that kind of appeals to you. Let me just make sure my pen is playing ball. I just want a piece of paper I can see it. There we go. So these silhouette figures give you lots of scope for adding your own details. As much or as little as you want to. Let's put a bit of extra definition into this pattern here in the vase. And there's no right or wrong way with this. There's no too much, or you don't need to be perfect. This is about kind of loose freehand marks as the mood takes, really. Just thinking. Yeah, should I go with black? No, I think I'll go with white. I think there'll be more contrast there. And again, this is another, like we did with the stenciling at the beginning, it's just another way of adding your own personality, your own creative touch to the papers that you've been working with. And I could keep going for ages doing this, but I'm not going to, because I'll get in trouble. I'm sure that's a feeling you're very familiar with. Let's just add a little bit of black, some black dots, and of course you could be adding splatters to this. One of the things I like about the page is we've still got some space in the centre there which isn't overly crowded, so still nice to be able to preserve a little bit of white space on the project, even one that's got so many patterns and elements as this. And it doesn't look overly busy because, or to my eye it doesn't, because we're using kind of a colour palette that all works together. And I do think it is really interesting how much of a difference these touches make. Just do a little bit more here. Anything else that we want to add? I'm just thinking I'll just add a little bit of white in the sun at the top there, but the sun would look really cool patterned as well. Some of this might be worth doing before you stick everything down. Just want to make sure my white is, let's turn this around. There we go, simple. There you have it. So say you could be making marks a lot, spend a lot more time making marks than I have done now. And if you're using plain papers or cardstock, that would be another way of giving a little bit of more visual interest and depth to the final project. but a super simple page. I hope you've enjoyed it. The key thing really is to encourage you to look at your various collections, the brands, the different designs you have, and think of ways of mixing them up, not always taking the collections at face value, but seeing how you can combine those products with other things you have in unexpected ways. So please, if you have enjoyed the video today, do like and subscribe to my channel. There's a weekly video with lots of ideas and crafty tips and techniques from journaling, card making, a bit of mixed media, and all sorts of playtime with our products. So I hope to see you again next Sunday. If you do order the Make It Sunday bundle in the description box below, please just remember that that won't be shipped till the 30th of June, but it will be at a great price and certainly one that will enable you to create projects like this. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you again very soon. Bye for now.